Okay.
Okay, Dia. Now you can start the
Yeah.
session.
Hello, guys. So what we did in the last two sessions was like build our first tab, and then we learned how to insert an image and how to use a card view using Jetpack Compose. But today's topic is a little bit theoretical. So but you really need to know this before developing a project. Even in the project which we are going to develop in this camp, the NewsApp, we are going to use this thing. So today's topic is MVVM. It stands for Model View View Model. So it's basically, what is it actually? It's actually an architecture in Android. So you guys have any idea what's an Android architecture? You can write it in the chat box.
Any wild guesses on what this term architecture is in Android? Because this is the term that you will come across a lot once you're in your internship and your industry experience days. So, yep. Any guesses? Any wild guesses? I know it's a bit advanced of a question.
Yeah.
Build a process of an APK? No.
Not exactly.
But good.
So like
But
if
we're
you
good
say,
try, Abhishek.
yeah. So if you say in a simpler word, it's basically the components to support an Android device. Like we have the app, the framework, the libraries, and the Linux kernel. So we'll not go deep into that, but so basically we have main types of architecture. We have MVC, that is model view controller. We have MVP, that is the model view presence, and the one which we are going to discuss in today's session is MVVM, that is model view view model. Now, what is it exactly? We'll see. Yeah. So the core concept of MVVM is to separate the main logic of the program from its UI. Okay. So what happens is if you add everything to a single activity, it will create a lot of problems. For example, in testing and like debugging the code, again, like if someone sees your code, like if everything is written all together, it will be difficult for them also to understand. Again, suppose you're working in a big project. So one group of people is responsible for developing the UI, and another group of people is responsible for the logic of the program. So if what happens is if you write everything in a single code, so if one part of the code is not yet developed, you cannot proceed with the other part. So of course, this will decrease the efficiency, right? So for this, we use this MVVM. So what happens when you use MVVM? You can work independently and concurrently. So what you do here is separation of the code. We separate the code and develop them individually so that it's efficient. So up till now, I don't think you have any doubt. If you have, you can ask. Then we'll go on like, how does this thing works? Are you guys following? You can just write in the chat box. Okay, cool. Thanks, Viptanil. Okay, so what is it exactly? So from the full form, it's evident that it has three parts, view, model, and view model. Now, let's dive into each one of them one by one. First, let's start with the view. So from the previous two sessions, I think now you guys have an idea what a view is, right? What is it? Anyone?
The view is the content of the app which we would see while the app is running.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the thing which we see on the screen. So it's basically the layer which directly interacts with the user, right? So the main point here to be noted is this view does not contain any logic of this application. For example, if I have to explain, suppose there is a button in a screen. Now this view is only concerned with clicking of this button. Now what happens after the button is clicked, this does not concern the view. Okay. So this is about the view part. And next we'll go to the model. Now this layer is responsible for the abstraction of data sources. What does it mean? Like it has the repository which collects, like accesses the data either from the room sources like the SQLite sources or through remote sources through APKs. Okay, basically you can say that it can like has the data file stored in it. Okay, in simpler words. But what's the specialty of MVVM here? Like this model and this view has no direct contact with each other. As I've told you earlier, that there is no, like the code is separated. So then how do they interact? For that reason, we have another layer called view model. Now, this purpose of this layer is just to have a link between the model and the view. Okay, so basically you can say that it acts like a middleman. So previously I was giving you an example of a button. So what's happened is, suppose when you click a button, so clicking of the button, this view is responsible. Now what happens after that, that entire logic is written in the view model. Suppose on clicking a button, you get the username. Username is displayed after clicking the button. Now, clicking of the button is the view part. Now the entire code, what happens after that is written in view model. Now this view model accesses the data from the model, like the username, and shows it to the view. So this is how these three work together. So this is the relation between them. Did you guys follow? Here you can see like this activity fragment part is the view part. This is the view model part. And this whole thing is the model part, which contains the repository and it collects the data from SQLite part or the API. It depends upon the project. So this is it. And here you have a pathway from which you can easily understand that this view sends this UI events to the view model, and the view model sends accesses the model and fetches the data from the model and passes it on to the view model, and the view can easily access it. So here I have a great analogy for you guys to understand it better. Suppose in a bank, okay, this model part is the bank database, which contains the database of the bank. Okay, now we have the view model, who is the database manager. Okay, the person who manages the database. And for the view, we have the front desk officer. Now this front desk officer, of course, is the only one who interacts with the customer, right? Now this front desk officer has no idea what's stored in the bank database. Okay, so suppose when a customer enters, he or she obviously won't have access to the database directly or the manager, right? He or she will interact with the front desk officer. Now this front desk officer, then suppose that post customer is inquiring about his bank details. Now that front desk officer will ask the database manager for the information. This database manager will then fetch the data from the database and pass it on to the view. So this gives you a great analogy like how this thing works. So did you guys get it?
Yes, I think I would expect a lot of questions from all of you guys to clear it out.
Okay.
All questions are welcome. Nobody has a question. That's really great. Because when I used to learn architecture, I had a lot of questions, and it took me a lot of time to learn any architecture. So if you have any question, you can ask. Okay, sure, Jamai. I think that won't be a problem. In this. Okay, so no questions from anyone. Are you guys following? Okay, great, fine. That's
cool.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
that's
continue.
okay. You can continue there.
Yeah. So I have one more great example for you guys. Like, why do we exactly need MVVM? Suppose, can anyone tell me, like, what part of this is MVVM? Like, we have model, view, and view model. So, what part of MVVM is this password reset screen?
The design, username, new password, and confirm password is the part
Yeah,
of
yeah,
view, and the logic behind it is model, and though that is a connection, make a connection in between two is view model.
exactly, exactly. So this part of this part is the view part. Okay, so it has three attributes: username, new password, confirm password. Now this is the model part, username and password. Now tell me, is it necessary to have a confirm password attribute in the data? Like we don't need to store this confirm password in data, of course, like it's unnecessary. So what happens if there was a direct contact between this model and the view? What would have happened is, like, we cannot connect each and every attribute within each and every part. So it would have created a problem. So for that, we have this view model. Now, view model has three attributes: username, new password, and confirm password. Now, so then it fetches the data from the model and then connects with each and every part of the view. So it won't create a problem then. So it's one of the reasons why we use MVVM. Okay, this is it. And now there are two ways by which we can implement MVVM in a project. We'll see it soon while developing the project in our camp. Like, first is using the data binding library developed by Google. And second is RxJava. We'll be using this data binding library. It's a library which Google developed for this purpose only, which we'll be implementing in this project. So this is it for the theory portion of MVVM. So if you guys have any doubt, you can ask. Anyone? Then I'll assume there is no questions. So Shagil Bhaiya, then we can continue with clean
Yeah.
architecture.
Okay, fine. I think nobody. Okay, so there is one question actually from Abhishek Raj. So he asks, what is basically RX Java? Fine.
Like, huh.
So if you want to answer, you can go ahead.
So it's basically a tool by which we use like implement MVVM in a project. So how you can tell that, like, uh,
Yeah, basically RX Java is a library. Do you
yeah,
understand the meaning of a library? Just like Jetpack Compose is a library, RX Java is also a library. And that library has a lot of functionalities which helps us in implementing the MVVM architecture. Means all the features of the architecture very easily. Means we don't have to code the entire thing by ourselves because it already has those functionalities written by someone and just provided to us. So the only thing that you have to do if you want to implement MVVM using RxJava is just add the dependency of that library to your Android project and just start using it. Was that clear, Abhishek Raj? If you have any further questions also you can ask.
yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Any
okay.
other questions related to RxJava, related to data binding? Okay, if you don't have question, that's cool. As we move further, we'll explain everything. So for those of you who joined a bit late, so let me just briefly introduce you to this concept of MVVM that we have started in today's lecture. So MVVM stands for Model View Model. the basic purpose of MVVM architecture is to divide the various layers of our application into three parts: model, view, and the view model. So the view part is the part which concerns the application by showing the user, all the things that are visible: the buttons, the recycler views, the images, everything, text views, and everything that is visible to the user is in the view layer, right? In the forms of activity and fragments. Now, the view model, when we work in the industry, we have like hundreds and hundreds of activities. So inside each activity, we can't just keep on doing other works apart from just showing the view. So if we do that, then the just a second. Yes. So if we do that, then what happens is uh, any other developer who comes afterwards and tries to understand the code, he will not be able to understand the code. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the application will lag a lot. It will be not a very efficient application. It will not be a smooth application. Why? Because the job of the view was to just show the view. So it would have done it seamlessly. But now we are loading all other business logic, all other calculations, all other data fetches into the already function means into the previous functionalities of the view layer. So what happens, automatically it slows down, the efficiency comes down a bit. So we divide the app into three layers. The job of the model layer is to get the data, fine, is to get the data for this application. Now what do you mean like by getting data for the application? Any idea like what is this data that we are kind of talking about and we are so concerned about it? Anyone would like to take a guess?
Any input or output type data which we want to store in our database or want to fetch from database.
Yeah, very good. What's your name? Actually, I cannot see you.
Mohua Ghosh.
Okay, great. You're from second year?
Yes.
Okay, great, Mohua. So that's correct. Basically, data is all the data that we want to show in our application, and all the big data from the user that we want to store in our database. So all that work is done in the data layer. There are two types of data. One data is in your mobile phone. Fine. One data, so, yeah, there are two sources of data. One is the local database, and the other is the server side database. So the local database is already stored in your mobile phone, and it is accessed by the developer using the room library that is built on the SQLite database in Android. And for fetching the data from a remote server, we make use of something called the application programming interface. And we'll see in this course, in the project, how to make an API call. So that will be the work of the model layer, all the network calls and all the data related stuffs. The job of the view model is to get the data in the desired form so that it can pass it on to the view from the model layer. So the model layer fetches all the data and gives it to the repository. The repository stores all the raw data. Now the job of the view model is to get the desired data, not all the data, only the desired data. Let's say I'm using the Gmail. Let's say I'm using a Facebook application. Fine. So if I'm on the post screen, then I won't need the data for the chat screen. Is that clear? If I'm on the post screen, I'm scrolling my feeds, then I won't need the data for the chat screen. So why unnecessarily I get the data of the chat screen? So the view model of the post screen will get the data of the post screen. And then when we move to the chat screen, the view model of the chat screen will get the data of the chat screen and show it accordingly. Fine. So that's the job of the view model. So these are the jobs of view model, and model respectively. And yeah, that's dividing our application into three layers so that different teams can work concurrently without affecting the code of others. So was that explanation clear for all of you who had joined a bit late? Okay, great. Thank you. So I think Dia is done with the MVVM part. It's just the theoretical
Yeah,
part
yeah.
right now. We'll move to the practical part very soon. So now I would request Rohit to begin with the clean architecture part.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you, Rohit.
Okay, so before starting, I just want to, okay, how many of you are still here? Show me a high five. Yeah. So before starting, I would just like to give you a fun fact so that it will be more easy for us. So can you see the diagram here, the Android logo? How many of you can see here? Do you guys know actually why the name Android is given? Any guesses? Okay, so let me just tell you. This Android logo is basically Andy Rubin's favorite robot. Andy Rubin is the founder of Android Dev. Yeah, related to robots. So Andy Rubin basically loves robot, and that's why when he was making this operating system, he used to name this as Android. Now, do you guys get it? Yeah. Okay. So do you guys know
Sir,
that?
repeat once again.
Okay. So Andy Rubin, who was the founder of Android, basically loves robots, right? So then he named this Android system as the name of the robot, that is Android. It's basically Android basically means a male robot. Do you guys got it? Okay, can you tell me what's the name of a female robot? Yeah, right. Rhinoids. No, Maria, not rhinoid. Okay, so now let's begin the topic, which is clean architecture. Okay, so as you have already learned about MVVM, this is a architecture used to make apps. Now, how it's different from MVVM and why we need a clean architecture? First, we need to understand. So in clean architecture, we basically divide our app in different layers. Now, before beginning, let's see this code. Can you see the code here? One written without the clean architecture and one is written after the clean architecture. So can you guess, can you tell me which one is looking more good or which you can judge better?
The right one.
Yeah, sure. So this is the actual problem. When we write without the clean code, we didn't know, and it's very difficult for the other programmers to understand where the basic codes are written and where to test which. And basically, this is the thing that we need to keep in our mind. So when we are basically when we are developing industry level apps, then we use clean code. So can you tell me if we are making a calculator app, can we use a clean code? Yeah, it's a better approach, but it didn't require it because clean code is basically made to for industry level applications. Yeah, it's not needed, right, Satyam? Okay, so let's move forward. So what happens in clean architecture? Now, as you can see, this is a picture which is given by Robert C. Martin. He was actually a very good programmer and he only devised this concept. We also call him as Uncle Bob. So as you can see, the whole app is divided into different layers, right? As you can see, the blue layer, the green layer, the red layer, and the yellow layer. Can you guys see it? Yeah. So what happens is that if we are like if you can see the yellow layer, it cannot directly interact with the blue layer. The first of all, the blue layer have to go to the green layer, then the green layer goes to the red layer, and finally when goes to the yellow layer. So means that it cannot directly talk. It have to give some instances to the other layer, and then it can really fetch the data. So this creates a very proper application, and it's very much helpful in testing purposes. Okay, so what is the importance and why really we need it? Like everything must have some importance. Then, okay, first of all, there is separation of concerns. Means that as you have already seen that we have devised this into different packages and folders. So it's very easier for the other developer to come here and just if we have to make any changes or to add any new feature, he can easily implement it. So that is the biggest thing here. And next thing is it is easy testable. So if you suppose you want to test if you want to test any database and you didn't have it, so what you can do basically, you can create a dummy and you can just test it with this. So if we didn't have these packages here, it's very difficult for us to do that. So that's why it is easily testable. Okay, so how many are of you are in this state? Okay, not an issue. So take a deep breath. Okay, so as you have already stated that this clean architecture divides the whole program application into different layers. As you can see, there are 3 layers, namely presentation, data, and domain. Can you guys see? So all the layers have different things that are included in it. Like in the presentation layer, as you can see, we have the basic UI, right? As you have already learned about the views. So all the views and all the things that you can see on the screen is basically on the presentation or the app layer. And it also includes the fragments, the view models, the activities. Guys, can you tell me what is activity? Do anyone have any guesses? No, no, it's not task. It's basic. Okay, so when you open any app, you get the first screen as home screen, right? No, it's not the background process. The screen that you see is actually an activity. Yeah, very close, Krishna. So basically that is an activity. Then fragments, then view models, these are different classes
That
that
was
we
a
can
very
use.
beautiful answer by Krishna Agarwal. Exactly like what an activity is in which the app calls calls a UI. It's just as I have discussed in my previous session, using the set content view function. Any activity attaches the layout of itself into a layout, its layout into itself. So yeah, great answer over there. Yeah, you can continue with.
Yeah, so the next layer is our uh, domain layer. So as you can see, the domain layer includes the business logic of the application. Okay, so it's basically the logic that is written to run the whole app. And that's why the domain layer is the innermost layer. None of the layers can directly talk to it. They need to go to the layers besides it, and then can actually go to the last layer. Like as you can see, here we actually have the domain layer. If we have the first layer that you can see, the blue layer and the green layer, when you combine both, you get the presentation layer. So if they have to talk to the domain layer, the entities, then they have to talk to the red layer and then finally goes to the last layer. So this creates a very beautiful framework. Sorry, framework, not the structure. And the finally is the data layer. So guys, can you tell me what's a data layer? Guys, can anyone guess what may be the data layer? Okay, so no issue. The data layer basically keeps all the data that it gets from the databases or from the APIs, etc. Yeah, it's having means it can have a remote data source or it can have your online data source. Okay, so you can see the diagram here, right? As we have already discussed, this is the app or the presentation layer. We then have the data layer and then we have the domain layer. So can you guys see it? And can you guys tell me that if the app layer or the activity layer have to talk to domain, what it will do? Okay, so if the app or the presentation layer have to talk to domain layer, then it first interacts with the yellow layer that you can see in the data and then finally goes to domain. In this way, this whole app works. Okay, so let's give you an example, then you can better understand. So how many of you have used Amazon app? Maybe still some of you are using it. Okay, so when you open Amazon app, what you first see on the screen? Yeah, right. Splash screen, loading screen, recommendations feed. Yeah, basically we get the home page when after the splash screen. Okay, so you go there and you just search in the search box, right? Now, so as you can see, you are on the UI phase, means you are on the UI screen where you interact with the app and you use the search box. This comes inside the UI portion. Now what happens? The keyword that you have typed on the search box, it goes to view model. It's also a class, right? Now view model sends it to the use cases. Now we'll explain you use cases in a moment. So use cases interacts with repositories. Repository basically interacts with the data sources, the web or the local data sources that we have. Basically, when you switch off your internet of the Amazon app, then what you can see? Have anyone tried switching off the internet and then browsing the Amazon app? Sure, I doubt. It means what it means. What it means? It means that the data is extracted from the web or from the online. So the keyword that you have typed, it basically now is with the repository. The repository calls repository interacts with the data sources and get the required results, and then it again sent to the repositories, and then finally goes to the entities, and then finally view model, and then it updates the UI. Yes, you got you search for shoes, and now the whole list of shoes you got. So in this way this works. So this is the presentation layer, this is the domain layer, and this is the data layer. So that's all for the clean architecture. Hope you guys have understood something.
Yes, that was a beautiful explanation. Thank you, Rohit. Now, all questions are welcome about clean architecture. Anything that you have in mind, you can just spit it out. Okay. So most of the people have understood it. That's the thing. So any questions? Anything that you want to ask or maybe want to share about the architectures? Like, what are your reviews about using an architecture in an Android app? Can I have some responses? Like, we were doing our applications well and good without architecture, then why, like, the concept of architecture was introduced, and why is it so necessary to learn it? Can you like give your views on it, that yes, it is absolutely necessary, or no, yeah, okay, it's more efficient, definitely it's more efficient, the code much more understand, yeah, exactly, the code, it makes the code much more understandable, very good, a structured way of working. Like when you go to an industry, you have a manager, you have some kind of plans, you have teams, and a structured way of working. So architectures are the need of are the need over there. Fine, to keep the things organized, yes, it helps the operational team. Okay, yeah, it does help the operational team. Fine, so you people were actually listening, that's very good. And I hope it was okay. Using architecture would help us increase efficiency and get more understandable code. Yes, exactly. So basically, a compilation of all the above answers. So the architecture, yes, exactly. Multiple developers can work on a single product. And that's the thing, like a single person cannot develop the entire product. It will take him years to develop. So we need a team, and a team of like thousands of developers working together. Maintenance will be easy. Wow, great answers. Makes the platform faster. Yes. So you people have a lot of understanding about software engineering. So that's good. Okay, fine. So that was it for the theoretical parts. Now, before moving to the practical part, the project that we had decided. So a basic layout of the project. Uh, it will be a news app. Now I have chosen news app because I want to show you how to make a network call, how to, there is an API that we'll be using, and we'll disclose the API in the next session. So basically it will be a news app, and we will fetch all the news from an external source. Fine. And display it in our application. And in order to do that, we will be using an architecture. So a simple application using an architecture that will kind of make the practical about an application, about these architectures pretty clear. Fine. So let me just share my screen and show you the layout. I mean, the basic layout. It's the most basic layout I have made. Hopefully in the session, with all of your creativity, I'll take all of your inputs and improve the UI. And every one of us, I suppose that every one of us should make a UI of his or her own, so that every application is unique. So all the projects, means the projects that we have. So all of your projects are different and unique. So let me share my screen now. Just a moment. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so you can see this application. So what it does is it fetches news from an what happened?
Sorry, actually my voice.
Okay, sorry. So what we will do is we will use this this application to display news, and for that we'll use an external API. Fine. And the speciality of this application will be that we will introduce a Firebase authentication system. So I'll teach you how to use Firebase authentication to sign in into an application using the Firebase platform that we have. And one more thing about this application is we are using the concept of a browser within an Android app. Fine. So suppose if I click on any one of the recycler views, means one of the news, then the actual URL of the news will open up and the user can scroll the thing inside of his or her phone, means inside of this application. As you can see, I've not exited this application. I'm still inside of this application and I'm able to view this. So it will be a simple application and it will have a lot of complex functions. Okay, and the UI definitely with Jetpack Compose will try to make it much more interactive, much more better. So with that, I'll just stop sharing my screen. Okay, so was this app interesting to all of you?
Yes, Bhaiya.
Great. So we'll be developing it together, and I hope that all of us come up with innovative ideas for making this the UI of the application very beautiful. So just give me 1 minute so that I can join in with my other device and start the dependency installation of this application. Yes, the name is also interesting. Since it was a news app, so Khabardar means full of news, and also Khabardar means making a pun on that word. Fine. Okay, just give me a minute. Yes, you will get the recordings of all the session. Actually, the graphics team is working day and night to make the video suitable for uploading in on YouTube. So that's why it's taking a little late. Fine. Otherwise, it will be. I think the day one session video will be up on YouTube by tonight, hopefully, and we'll inform you by mail. So do keep a check on your mails, and we'll inform you about that. Okay. So hopefully my screen is visible to all. So we will close this application that we have and open a new project. I create a new project in it. So this will be our final project for this session, and it will be hopefully a good one, something that you can put up in your resume. So as usual, we will click on the empty compose activity, click on next. The name of the application, now this time we should not give it the name like my first application or something. So can I have some suggestions, like what can I give the name of this application? It will be a news application for sure. So what do you think I can give the name?
24/7.
सावधान रहे, सतर्क रहे.
Okay. Khabardar Ishika. I think Ishita likes my way of naming things. So she goes with Khabardar. Khabar 24/7. Okay. Read on news, vision, IEM. Okay. IEM tak. WhatsApp University. I think, yeah, but rapid news. Okay, great. Now everybody has a kind of awoken themselves from the sleep and are very active in the chat box. So yeah, let's kind of select the name. Kritika says vision. Okay, so what do I give the name? Any other suggestions? We can definitely Insta News. Okay. Okay, fine. So let's give it a very simple name, because you people can give whatever name you wish to. I'll just give it a name of NewsApp. Fine. NewsApp. Now, why am I doing this? So that you people kind of find this name a little boring and come up with a new name for your application, the thing which you are developing in your IDs. Fine. Okay, great. Shlok Raj, the page tidings. News Hub. Okay. So we are quite familiar with this screen that we have. So we'll kind of install all the dependencies that we'll need for the project. So I'll just list the dependencies that we need, and one by one I'll show you how to find those dependencies. So in this application, you saw that we had support for network calls. So for that, we'll be using the second dependency that we'll be using is our glide library. Yes, you heard it right. It's going to be the glide library for loading all our data, means loading the images of the news. Then the other will be the browser dependency that will enable our application to host a browser within itself. So basically, we'll be using these three dependencies. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So let me show you how to find those dependencies. Definitely, as we develop the project, we can add more dependencies to our project, definitely. So now I'll just find it. So first of all, just go and search on the internet for retrofit dependency for Android. Dependency for Android. Fine. So we'll go to the GitHub link over here. This is the like official repository of GitHub of retrofit, where you will find the entire code for retrofit, like how retrofit is built. If you want to contribute to this, if you think that something is not right, then you can definitely contribute over here. So here you can find there is a dependency listed here. So we'll just copy it. And first of all, I'll just kind of paste it over here, not directly in our application. Next is the dependency for glide. So dependency for glide in Android. Like I could have not shown you this, but I think showing is quite important so that any other dependency you can search from the internet and add it. So this is the dependency for glide. So here also, I think for this, be careful. It says that you have to add two dependencies through your project. So we have to add both of them. So in glide, we'll just paste it over here, the two dependencies, and for using browser. So I think we'll do that later. First of all, let's do with that. So open your module level build.gradle file. Over here, scroll down to the dependency section, and over there, the first dependency will be for retrofit. So we will add the dependency for retrofit. It will be implementation, and we will paste this thing over here, scom.squareup.retrofit, and then we'll use retrofit 2 over here. So we'll just paste it. Now the second dependency is for glide. Right, and over here, I think we have it already. Plus annotation processor. Yep. We'll just paste it. And there is an option C of sync now. Now, what does this sync now does? Whichever dependency we have added over here, this sync now, on clicking the sync now button, it will download all the files of these dependencies, and it will make these things ready for us to use in our application. So I will click on just sync now, and Gradle will automatically do the things for us. So any questions till now? Like, how did I do this thing?
Can you please show the part where you from where you copied this to?
Okay, yeah, it's just I googled it, retrofit. This thing I got from the retrofit GitHub. I'll just post a link to it so that you people can check it out. Where's the chat box? I'll just post it. This one is for retrofit, and for glide, the thing is here. Fine. Is it clear? Can you people see it in the chat box? Yeah. Okay, great. So as I was saying, there was another dependency that was browser dependency. I'll just kind of copy it from my previous project that I have created. So I'll open this project, and here you can see there is the dependency for browser. I'll just kind of copy it and also paste it here so that you people can see it. And then keep this thing over here. Fine. And finally add it to our NewsApp. So see, the sync process has finished. Now we'll add our final dependency for the project. That is the browser dependency. We'll just add it. Sync now, and while it gets synced, I'll discuss about that clean architecture thing, that how we are going to implement. So as Rohit showed in his presentation, that we divide the entire application into three layers. One is the data layer, the other is the domain layer, and the last one is the presentation. The presentation layer actually hosts all of our views. Fine. So we will naturally create those packages. So what you have to do is, can you see this com.gdsc.newsapp, this package over here? Okay, so what you will do, just click, right click on it, then new, and then click on package. Fine. And in that thing, just give a name, data. Click OK. And here we have the data package. We'll create another package that will be for our domain. Fine. And we have another package for the presentation. Fine. But hold on. These are not the only packages that we will create. We need some other packages also to for the proper functioning of our application. The most important of them is the dependency injection package, DI. And we will also create one new package for our util, means to handle the errors of our network call. Fine. So these are the basic layers. You can these are packages, so you can like view them as layers of our application that we have. The data layer for making all the data calls, or in the local API, or in the local database, or using web service. Then the dependency injection, I'll discuss about it later. We'll use Dagger Hilt for that. So I've not added the dependency for Dagger Hilt yet because we'll be adding it from the next day. Then we have, okay, yeah, attendance link. Ahana, you have the thing ready, right? Just a minute, I'll text her. So you'll get it in a while, fine, for 2-3 minutes. And we are going to just end the session in a while. So we have this domain layer. This will basically be a link between the data and the presentation layer. Here we have a lot of things that we'll do. Then we have finally the presentation where we will host our UIs. Fine. Yes, Ahana is posting it. So in the data layer, we actually have to like have a few subdivisions. So we have to create a few more packages. Fine. So for that, I'll create another new package inside of the data package, and I'll call it remote. This will be for this will host all the codes for making remote API calls. Then we will have a package for named repository. Means I think we have already discussed about what a repository is in this application. Then we will have one thing called the mapper. Fine. There are other things based on this application, like the use case of the application. So we for the time being, for our application, we'll use these three. Then I'll move ahead with the domain layer. In the domain layer, what we will have is, I mean, first of all, let's just create a dummy file over here so that there is no problem in creating new packages. Yeah. So in the domain layer, we have one package for the models, the data models. Then we have a package for for our repository. Now, this is the domain layer level repository of our application. We will discuss that why there are two repositories in our application, one in the data and one in the domain layer. We'll discuss about that. So for the time being, let me delete these dummy text. You don't need it right now. And then we have this presentation layer where we will finally design our views. So you people get a brief did you people get a brief overview, like what we are going to do, what our plan is, how we are going to implement the clean architecture in this project of ours? Okay, so I think that was it for today's session. Will not further extend it because tomorrow's session will be a bit more serious one. In fact, today's session was also about some serious topics of Android, the MVVM and the clean architecture. And from tomorrow, we will actually start building the application. We'll do a lot of things, a lot of coding will be there. So don't try to miss it. And anybody who wants to join maybe should join definitely join tomorrow because we'll discuss a lot of things over there. It will be a lot more coding session and you will finally develop your first project. So yeah, the attendance link is posted in the group. I would like request all of you to kind of ask questions if you have any doubts, and if you also don't have any doubts you can write it in the comment section. If you want to ask me any other questions apart from Android, apart from this project, or maybe some other things, then also you are free to ask. Let's Okay, fine, Ishita, even I'm excited for tomorrow. No doubts. Great, Diptanil. Everything is clear.
ये अभी जो आपने बताया था, मतलब आपका जो वाला आपका वाला जो पार्ट था उसका थोड़ा छोटा सा जिस्ट में बता सकते हैं, जैसे अभी आप क्या क्या चेंजेस किए थे कोड में?
चेंजेस मतलब कहाँ से चेंजेस?
तब आप अभी जैसे एक तो नया कंपोज फाइल, एम्प्टी कंपोज फाइल खोले, उसके
हाँ
बाद
हाँ
आप कुछ चेंजेस में मतलब और ऐड ऑन कुछ किए थे,
हाँ
तो
हाँ हाँ
वही चीज उसका छोटा सा जिस्ट में वापस।
हाँ एक्चुअली देखो, हम लोगों को जो एप्लीकेशन मैंने तुम्हें दिखाया उसमें तुम्हें इमेज दिख रहा था, और वो इमेज कहाँ से आ रहा था? वो किसी सर्वर से आ रहा था, और उसका जो डेटा था वो भी किसी सर्वर से आ रहा था। तो हमने क्या किया, उसको कहीं से फेच किया, राइट? तो अब ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल है कुछ लाइब्रेरीज वो काम करने के लिए, तो हमें खुद से बैठ के पूरा का पूरा कोड नहीं करना पड़े। तो जो नेटवर्क कॉल्स के लिए हम लोग यूज करेंगे ऐप में, तो उसके लिए जो लाइब्रेरी हम लोग यूज करने वाले हैं वो है रेट्रोफिट। अब मेरे ऐप को थोड़ी पता चलेगा कि मैं रेट्रोफिट यूज करना चाह रहा हूँ, लाइक रेट्रोफिट है भी क्या उसे थोड़ी ना पता। तो मुझे ये डिपेंडेंसी उसको डालना पड़ेगा, उसको ये चीज लेट्स से एक लाइब्रेरी उसे देना पड़ेगा कि भाई जब भी मैं रेट्रोफिट का कुछ काम करना चाहूँ, तुम्हें बोलूँ कि भाई मुझे रेट्रोफिट का ये काम करके दो, तो तुम इस लाइब्रेरी में जाना और इसके अंदर से तुम्हें जो भी फंक्शन मैं बोलूँ वो ढूंढ के लेके आ जाना, ठीक है, जिससे मैं अपना नेटवर्क कॉल सीमलेसली कर सकूँ। अब दूसरा चीज था कि हम लोग डायनामिकली मतलब कि ऑनलाइन इमेजेस भी लोड कर रहे थे, तो उसके लिए अब हम लोग, ताकि हम लोग को खुद से कोड लिखना ना पड़े, मतलब खुद से कोड इन द सेंस वो मशीन लेवल कोड ना लिखना पड़े, तो उसके लिए एक और लाइब्रेरी है और एक एनोटेशन प्रोसेसर है। उसमें क्या करना पड़ेगा कि सेम थिंग, कि अगर मुझे कोई इमेज लोड करना है तो मैं अपने आप को बोलूंगा कि भाई ये ग्लाइड लाइब्रेरी मैं तुम्हें दे रहा हूँ, इसमें जितनी भी फाइल्स हैं वो तुम्हारे हाथ में है अभी। तो मैं जब भी ग्लाइड यूज करूं तो मुझे जो भी फंक्शन की जरूरत पड़े ग्लाइड में, तो तुम ये लाइब्रेरी के अंदर जाना और वो फंक्शन ढूंढ के मुझे दे देना ताकि मैं उसे यूज कर पाऊँ। और तीसरा चीज जो तुमने देखा था एप्लीकेशन में कि मैं किसी भी न्यूज पे क्लिक कर रहा था तो वो एक ब्राउजर, मैंने मेरे ऐप के अंदर ही एक ब्राउजर खोल दे रहा, तो उसके लिए हम लोग ने ये डिपेंडेंसी ऐड, ठीक है, ये लाइब्रेरी, जिससे मतलब हमारे ऐप के अंदर ब्राउजर खोल पाए, हमें वो चीज के लिए अलग से कोड लिखना ना पड़े। हम सिर्फ जब हमें ब्राउजर खोलना होगा तो हम ऐप को इन्फॉर्म करेंगे कि भाई ब्राउजर हमारे लिए खोल दीजिए, तो ऐप ब्राउजर खोल देगी। फाइन। तो यही सब काम है जो हम लोगों ने लाइक किया अब तक। उसके बाद फिर हम लोगों ने पढ़ा था थ्योरी में दैट वील बी यूजिंग क्लीन आर्किटेक्चर इन आवर एप्लीकेशन। सो उसके लिए हम लोग ने ऐप को सिर्फ यहाँ पर फोल्डर्स बनाए, ये फोल्डर सब एम्प्टी है फिलहाल के लिए, और कल से ये बढ़ना स्टार्ट हो गया। तो ये फोल्डर्स में डिवाइड कर दिया अपना लॉजिक, ताकि एक एक करके हम लोग अपना सब कुछ इसमें भरते रहे। फाइन। कल तुम लोग देखोगे एक एक जो फोल्डर है वो जो मैंने बनाया है, से पैकेज बोलते हैं एंड्रॉइड में, उसका हर एक का काम क्या है एग्जैक्ट। सो वाज दिस क्लियर?
हाँ
ओके ग्रेट, थैंक यू। सो एनी अदर डाउट्स फ्रॉम एनीवन? If you people okay, thank you. Who's this? Krishna Agarwal, thank you so much. Retrofit is actually a library, जैसे मैंने कहा, it's used for making network calls, means API calls करने, डेटा बाहर से सर्वर से लाने के लिए। Which Linux distribution will be best for development purpose? Okay, I think Ubuntu will be good enough for Android, and it's open source, so you can get it free. And somebody who is already using Mac, means the Unix environment, then that is the best possible environment for any kind of software development. But if you don't have, then Windows is also fine. You don't necessarily need Linux to develop things, because that's not a necessary condition. So I'll kind of stop sharing my screen. And if you people don't have any doubts, like, you can open up your cameras so that we can take a quick photo of all of you, means a screenshot as a memory. Okay. Okay, all smiles. And okay, thanks. Thank you for attending today's session. Hopefully we'll have a blast tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you for attending the session. Thank you for all of your responses. And please share this thing with all of your friends, because developing this application with your friends would be will be a greater, a better experience for all of you. And thanks to my speakers, Diya and Rohit, for giving such a beautiful presentation on some of the most difficult topics of Android. So quick call out to both of you. Thanks a lot. Okay, so with that, I think we should end this session. If you don't have any doubt, I'll just wait for a few minutes. Okay, fine. Okay, sure. Fine. So let's end today's session. Thank you and have a good night. Bye-bye.